Hello, I'm Gwen Preston of Resource Maven. I'm here at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver in January, and I'm joined by Keith Bodnarchuk of Cosa Resources. First time for Cosa here because Cosa is a new story, so thanks for making the time.
Great to be here.
Okay, so Cosa was part of my uranium panel. I'm obviously very excited about uranium these days, as you are as well. You have a deep history in the uranium space. Talk about the premise of Cosa. This is a team that has made discoveries in the Athabasca Basin before and saw this uranium market coming.
Yeah, I think ultimately our group had a whole bunch of success recently at ISO Energy, and then majority of us moved on to try different ventures. And then when you saw what was happening in the uranium space, and we kind of had all of us sitting on the sidelines, it made a lot of sense for us to get back into, exploration in the Athabasca Basin, doing what we do best. And so Cosa was listed in 2022.
Right.
Then we really put our heads down for about a year and a half to build out the current assets that we have.
Yeah.
And then we raised a bit of money, and now we're getting back to exploration and drilling as soon as we can.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about, we'll focus on one project to begin with, which is the Ursa Project. You have a great map that explains the theory behind Ursa, which is that there's these major shear zones that cut across the east side of the Athabasca, and they are where the big deposits exist. But this Cable Bay shear zone hasn't actually seen much work.
Yeah, no, exactly. So it's one of those ones that exploration geologists always loved. It has only seen 15 holes, and that was in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. But a few of those holes actually did hit some uranium mineralization, which really stood out to us because that means it is a fertile trend.
Yeah.
And that's often how you have success in the Athabasca Basin, even Denison at Phoenix Discovery and places like that. There was these little sniffs along that trend, and they were able to hit something of significance. And why wasn't it extensively explored in the past? Because it was held by major, really, and through the last uranium cycle. And I think that's what's going to be different this time, I think, during this uranium boom is that ground like the Cable Bay Shear Zone, Ursa, is actually open to juniors like us who are willing to take more chances to go out and actually explore, these more wildcat exploration.
The advantage of a very, very long bear market is that the ground becomes available.
Yeah, exactly, right? So even the Camecos and Aranos of the world were unable to keep all the ground that they had.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's the specific plan at Ursa? There's these 15 holes, some of them have sniffs, you have some geophysics completed. So just talk about what's going to happen at Ursa over the next 6 months to a year specifically.
So I think the past people that worked in that area were obviously somewhat limited by budgets, but also by technology. And so they kind of did a piecemeal approach where they do a little bit of geophysics and they drill a hole. And we figured the best chance for success was to look at it as a property overall. And so we did do an extensive airborne survey over top the entire project. Airborne surveys have, advanced so much in the past 10 years. And so, really what we hoped to see out of it was, some target generation. And what we saw really exceeded our expectations. We saw that those 15 holes, although interesting, were drilled in areas we would not drill.
Right.
And we defined 10 target areas, which are defined by, I guess it's an electromagnetic survey, so there'd be conductivity in the basement, which maps a structurally complex graphitic conductor. But what we also were able to do is show conductivity in the sandstone, which could represent a potential alteration halo, which you see above Cigar Lake, Phoenix, MacArthur River, and places like that. And so that really stood out to us because now we have 10 target areas to go after, which have potential, to yield maybe an elephant-sized deposit.
And you're going to start drilling those pretty soon.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So the drills should be turning here near the end of February, early March. We'll be drilling in Q1, and it's exciting.
Okay, we talked about Ursa. You actually have an entire portfolio of projects that you will also be getting ready to, pushing towards the drilling stage, not at the same level as Ursa. Instead of diving into a bunch of projects, it's hard to follow all of that information for viewers. Let's talk about, you finished your presentation today with a chart that I really liked, which is that obviously the uranium price has already doubled in just the last 8 months. Uranium equities have certainly reflected that, levered it at times and not levered it at other times, but they've gained alongside the price. Most of them have at least. What your chart showed is that the pre-discovery explorers haven't actually moved yet with the uranium price, which kind of lays out a twofold opportunity.
No, for sure. And I think, that might be a product of the overall market, that the risk capital is still sitting on the sidelines.
True enough.
And it hasn't trickled down that far yet. And I think people tried to learn from the last uranium boom that they thought it's going to be short-lived. I think there's people sitting on the sidelines like that. But as we mentioned, or a lot of guys mentioned in the forum there, was just how strong this uranium bull market is looking.
Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you'll see the juniors start to re-rate and that money to trickle down there. And obviously with us, we are a new story, so we do have a very tight share structure. And we are a group that has produced impressive share share price charts, even during a bear market. And so I think you add that into what's happening, and us being, only worth 25 million at this point, I think it creates, a lot of potential for us to see an immediate re-rate.
Yeah, just on the boat starting to float, and then if there's a discovery, of course, then the floating will hardly matter relative to the discovery.
Exactly.
Well, you must be pretty excited to get out there. I mean, you've spent a bunch of time putting together this portfolio, and then the uranium market just showed up at exactly the right time.
Yeah, the timing's right. We are excited. We should have the drills turning in about a month or so. And so, I encourage people to follow the story, and, we're getting back to doing what we do best, and that's drilling.
And make uranium discoveries. No pressure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Perfect. Thanks, Gwen.